Style can come from some pretty surprising places. So can an idea. In high school, I designed a ceramic sandal adorned with different buttons as an art project. I realized the buttons wouldn't stay put, and that's when I came up with the idea of using Velcro. It was an aha moment. My idea came to life 4 years later when I was a senior and the patent was approved. My mother and I decided to make this dream of mine come true, and that's how Lindsay Phillips got started. We have always known we had a story worth telling, but great press is always such a nice surprise. From TV appearances, including a featured segment on E!, to a growing number of magazine articles, a bounty of blogs, and word on the street, the Lindsay Phillips craze has officially begun. Step into fashion with our collection of Liz ballet flats with interchangeable snaps, and the exciting introduction of our brand new Jordy, a slim flip-flop with a streamlined silhouette, available in 6 vibrant colors. Introducing our biggest surprise this season, bags and scarves, Lindsay Phillips style. With color and versatility, get ready to wrap yourself up in unexpected looks. Reversible handbags, multiple handles, and statement-making scarves tie your style together so you can change up your look, but hang on to your personality. Thank you so much for taking the time to see what's coming in spring 2010. And remember to always flaunt your individuality.
So much for having me here tonight. I'm very honored to be here. And I wanted to start out with a quote from a local inventor, Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I can tell you that based upon my experience, I have found this to be very true. So before I get going, I wanted to show you guys, for those of you who aren't familiar with SwitchFlops, I actually brought a sample with me today, and I'm holding the mic so I can't really demonstrate. But actually, Jeffrey, can you come up here and demonstrate for us? So here's the idea, guys. A flip-flop, but hold on. Go on. There's a little trick to it. Take off your strap. You put a new strap on, and within seconds, you have a whole new look, right? Now you're probably thinking at this moment, why didn't I think of that? And I get that every single day. So, how did I come up with the idea? I actually brought the original shoes with me today. You're looking at them, and come up to the stage after I talk and take a look at them. But the idea came from a high school ceramic art class. I created these shoes, and they were okay, but I thought I could make them even cooler, and I adorned them with a bunch of funky buttons. Well, my art teacher loved them, and she submitted them to a competition. But unfortunately, they didn't do too well. That's because they weren't a pure ceramic piece. So they sent them back to me, and I was kind of bummed, but you know, my parents said, Lindsay, these are fabulous shoes. So we're going to put them out. We're going to let everyone know what you've done. And they displayed the shoes in their house. And literally, every single woman that walked past these shoes fell in love with them. I actually had one friend that came up and tried to put them on. And I said, no, you can't do that. They're ceramic. They're going to break. So I decided I needed to make these shoes. So I went out to the store. I bought some cheap flip-flops, some funky buttons, and glue. I came home, and I started gluing the buttons to the flip-flops. And I realized the buttons wouldn't stay put. How can I come up with a concept that can keep the buttons from falling off? And I was thinking, I can't use glue. What can I use? Velcro. It was an aha moment. So I went back out to the store, bought a bunch of Velcro, and I started lining the shoes with Velcro. And I'd make these tops, and I'd stitch on the buttons, and the buttons would stay put. So I made some samples for my family, and everyone loved them. And a family friend came up to me and said, Lindsay, this is an amazing idea. You have to get a patent. And I was a sophomore in high school. I had no idea what a patent was. So I went online, I Googled, what's a patent? Found out what a patent is. I said, oh my gosh, I have to get a patent. I have to do it. So I went to the local patent attorney. And he was a very nice man. And he said, Lindsay, I don't want to discourage you, but just because it's not already on the market doesn't mean that someone's already patented it. So I said, oh, man. He said, save the $1,000, go home. I'm going to give you a website. Check on the website and look for a week. And if you don't find anything within a week times a period of a week, come back and I'll do a search for you. Because I really like you. And you know what? That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? So I went home. Every day after school, I'd get on the computer, I'd do a search, and I couldn't find anything that was similar. So I went back to him. He said, well, you're pretty persistent. I like you. I said, I believe in this idea. I said, you have to do the search for me. So he did it. And believe it or not, I could patent it. Now, I applied for the patent. This was a 4-year process, okay? 4 years. And it was even rejected, and I had to reapply. So don't get discouraged. So finally get the patent. I'm a sophomore in college, okay? I'm so excited. I have a patent. I'm a college student now. Okay, great. But how do you make your idea happen, right? My mom was a nurse. My dad was a doctor. They had no manufacturing experience. So I was very determined to make this happen. So I got online. I started doing a lot of research. I, contacted local manufacturers. I contacted people that were already in the flip-flop industry. Unfortunately, I couldn't manufacture in the States because I was too much of a risk because, it's very hard for them to take on new companies, and I needed very low minimums. And I said, you know what, I need to make this happen, but it's not going to happen here, so the only way it's going to happen is if I go overseas. So I start networking. My parents start asking all of their friends, do you have any contacts in China? Anywhere? Can you help us? Can you help us? And I start networking. I start asking all of my friends, do you have any contacts? And it took time, but eventually through a family friend, we found a contact, and he said, I can set you up with a translator. They can take you to factories, but you're going to have to go over to China. Okay, so here I am, okay? I'm a college student. I'm a sophomore. China? I have to go all the way to China? Well, I was determined. So I told my parents, I said, listen, I have to go to China. Do you guys want to come with me? I don't know if I want to go alone. So my mom actually, the two of us, we flew over to China. We met with our first factory, and it was quite an experience. It just was one of those things you don't know what to expect. Just seeing a factory in general was an experience, and then bringing out my idea and showing them my homemade prototype, and of course the owner of the factory being like, this is a great idea. Why didn't I come up with that? Oh no, the guy in China likes my idea. I don't know if this is good or if this is bad. But so we placed our order of 5,000 shoes, okay, and 4,500 straps. Now, when I say we placed our order, it took 2 years to get a working prototype in place. 2 years, okay? There are things you don't even think about. First of all, this is a brand new concept. They had never seen a flip-flop with Velcro on the strap. And then there's a whole other strap component. Now you're bringing in an element of ribbons and buttons and sizing, okay? 5 to 11. Well, the V part of the strap, the technical part is the yoke. Okay, well, as the size gets bigger, so does the yoke. Now I had to come up with a sizing system. All these things you don't think about. It's really incredible. So, after 2 years of tweaking, we finally have the real prototype. We placed the order of 5,000 shoes and 4,500 straps, and in December of 2006, they arrive at my parents' doorstep. Oh my God, 5,000 shoes, what are we gonna do? Well, Mom and Dad, can we put them in the garage? I'm a senior in college at this point, and I really don't have a place where I can put them, but do you think I could use your garage for a couple months? Well, we ended up getting a storage shed, and it was quite a process. So now I have these 5,000 shoes. I need to sell them, okay? I thought I was gonna be stuck with 5,000 shoes for the rest of my life. So, how how do you sell? How do you sell your product? How do you get in the marketplace? Once again, I got on the internet, did all the research I possibly could. I went to my local retailers and said, how do you come up with these products? How do you find them? What's the best way for me to get going? And they all said, well, we go to trade shows. So I said, okay, well, what's a trade show? I had no idea. So I go online, look into trade shows. I find a local trade show known as the Surf Expo. And I call the head of the Surf Expo. She's a very nice woman. I said, listen, I have this idea. I have 5,000 shoes in a storage shed. I have 45,000 straps, or 4,500 straps, I'm so sorry. And I need to sell these shoes. Can you help me? I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm a college student. I really need your help. And she said, actually, we have this program called Launch. It's for new companies who are getting going. And we actually give away 5 free booths per show. And I said, well, how do you do this? And she says, you just have to apply. So I applied. I won the booth. And in January of 2007, I started selling. Well, how do you sell? I have to come up with assortments now. These, you know, the owners of the stores, they want certain things. I had no idea what I was doing. But once again, I kind of tweaked along the way. And people loved the idea at the Trade Expo. They said, oh, why didn't I think of that? So we start selling. We bring on about 30 accounts at that show. And we start selling the shoes like crazy. In the middle of 2007, in the summer, we have about 150 accounts at this point, and we sell out of shoes. Well, I had no idea that it was going to take 90 days to get another order. So I had really unhappy stores, but what can you do? You know, you're a new company, you're just getting going. So you kind of tweak along the way. And I realized at this point, this was a crucial turning point because I realized that this wasn't just an experiment anymore. This was a serious business. So I realized that I couldn't sell out of shoes again. I need to bring in a lot more inventory. I need to make this happen. I have a great idea. How do I make it work? And I said, you know what? I need to bring on an expert. So I did. In January of 2008, I brought on Jeffrey Davidson, who's here with me tonight. And we have grown tremendously. Let me tell you, in 2007, we did about $700,000 in sales. In 2008, we did about $9 million in sales. And in 2010, did about $19 million in sales. So before I hand the microphone over to Jeff, I wanted to talk to you about some lessons that I have learned along the way. So, yes, it's fun, and I have the best job in the world, but it's a lot of hard work. Like I talked about before, Thomas Edison, what he said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Okay, literally, that's why they call it sweat equity, guys, okay? If it were easy, everyone would be doing it, right? Don't forget to ask people for help along the way. The worst they can say is no. If I would have never networked and told people about my idea, I would have never found a manufacturer. You have to do it. You have to talk to people. I know some of you are going to have that guard initially, but you have to let that guard down and talk to people. Don't be discouraged by people who don't believe in your idea. Keep your head up and walk forward. I like to say, walk on like you too. Believe in your idea. Don't give up and be persistent. You knock on that first door, close it in your face, you go back. Knock on that door for a second time. They close it in your face again, you go back. I guarantee you the third time you go back, that door is going to open. Don't be afraid to bring on people that are smarter than you. In order to succeed, you need to build an incredible team. And I have done this, and I am where I am today because I've built an incredible team. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to have an incredible idea. Okay, guys, it might have been an honors ceramic class, but it wasn't an honors bio class. And a lot of life is about timing. Take it, run with it, and have fun along the way. So now I would like to hand over the microphone to Jeff Davidson, who is my CEO and president of the company. And I like to say that Jeff is my backbone. This is the guy behind the girl. And like I said before, don't be afraid to bring on people that are smarter than you. And this is what I did, and this is why I'm introducing Jeff tonight. So now I'd like to have Jeff come up and take over the microphone. Oh, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A.
I don't have the hardest job in the world working with Lindsay, obviously. And I appreciate Lindsay giving me a few minutes to speak at the Women's Entrepreneurial. But yeah, I'm a local Jersey guy. I actually live close by here, and I've had the privilege of working with Lindsay's idea and her family to kind of take it to incredible levels. But the truth is, Lindsay is the inspiration of this company. She continues to provide guidance, lead, and frankly, is a central voice in what happens at Lindsay Phillips, and frankly is the face of the company as well as our design. A couple of things that Lindsay said that resonate so much for me, having not only had the good fortune of working with Lindsay and her family to build this company to another level, but in my other entrepreneurial suits, all of which have been right here in this local marketplace, I kind of want to just reiterate some of the more critical things that I think need a lot of focus for all entrepreneurs. Dean Moore mentioned knockoffs. Every business has knockoffs, patent or no patent. Sometimes they blatantly violate patent, and you've got to decide whether you take legal action. But more times than not, the legal action may or may not take you somewhere, and you may or may not choose to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're good at what you do and you believe in it, don't let the knockoffs bother you. We have knockoffs now. Some violate the patent, we pursue it. Some figure out ways around the patent. What we know is that if we're the best at what we do, we will be successful. And we have been successful. And frankly, the knockoffs have been a non-issue. Although emotionally they get to you in the beginning, you can't look that way. The other thing I would guide any young entrepreneur is you've got to take your idea and it's got to be concise. If you can't explain what you do in a matter of way less than a minute, you got to rethink your idea. It's critical. If it's got to be concise, it's got to be clear, and you got to be able to give that elevator pitch in literally a minute or two. So you've got to take your big idea and say, this is what we do. Very, very important. The other thing is, Nike says, just do it. Well, I'm a big believer in that, just do it. What that really means to me is everybody says, I thought of that idea. The difference between success and failure oftentimes is 10 people thought of the hamburger, only one guy decided to do it first. People come up to Lindsay and me, oh, why didn't I thought of that, I thought of that 4 years ago. Okay, you thought of it, maybe. I'll assume they're not kidding. And she did it. And that really is a difference. Sometimes it's just doing it, not thinking it. Because the difference between a successful person oftentimes and a not successful is great thinkers think and doers do. And you got to put the two together. So I would tell you that those principles have made Lindsay Phillips successful. And we continue to take Lindsay's idea, the original SwitchFlops, and expand on what now is an entire Lindsay Phillips brand. I actually think one of the folks that were introducing Lindsay said, called the company SwitchFlops. Well, actually, we've made a strategic change together, and it was one of the things that I saw when I was interested in joining Lindsay and her family, was this company was way beyond SwitchFlops. That SwitchFlops was an amazing first idea. But even SwitchFlops may have its life, meaning products go up and eventually products may go down. But if we can create a Lindsay Phillips brand, that people believe in Lindsay Phillips' story, and take from what one product is now, frankly, 50 products, and we've actually even broadened the brand beyond just shoes. We're now doing Lindsay Phillips scarves and bags, and it won't be far long down the road till we consider Lindsay Phillips jewelry. Those are critical principles. You've got to take your idea, you got to be concise, you got to execute, and then you have to look, how can this have longevity? And of course, you know, along the way somewhere, although Lindsay didn't particularly mention it, maybe it'll come up in the Q&A, there's got to be some financing in there, because whether we like it or not, every idea, even when it starts, needs money, because nothing happens, unfortunately, without two things I learned tonight. One is the internet, because Lindsay's speech, of course, talks so much about how she was able to use that research tool to get to every place she needed to get initially. But obviously capital and how to go about raising that first dollar and maybe that last $1 million if you're so fortunate, or many millions of dollars. Those are obviously critical pieces, and perhaps if those are topics of interest, Lindsay, and maybe to a lesser extent I, will help you during the Q&A period. Anyway, I've spoken more than I should at this conference, but I'm also honored to be here. We're really thrilled that we can offer the winners our congratulations and the opportunity. I know, forgive me, I don't know your name, but you mentioned that we would be giving out gift certificates to the females, but all of the winners, females or non-females, I imagine those males have mothers or sisters, because we don't make men's product. So all of the winners, we will have our gift certificate, and we'll offer you some product and hope you'll enjoy it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jeff and Lindsay, and thank you for those very kind gifts. Okay, we're going to take questions now. Please keep your questions short so we can get as many in as possible before we have to close tonight. Wait for so we can hear it on the system.
Hi, Lindsay, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I want to know how you found your president. How did you do your research on getting him on board?
Actually, I have a board, and through the board, I found Jeffrey. So, yeah, just once again, networking.
It wasn't an ad.
No. Actually, it was through a board member that had done some business with Jeff before and loved him and thought he was a perfect fit for the company. Yeah. Actually, when Jeff came to visit me, I had no idea why he was coming. I mean, I kind of did, but I said, God, this guy's got an amazing resume. Why is he coming to see me?
So how did you start your board? Was it an advisory board and then moved into a real board? How did you identify those individuals? Because that's really important getting started.
Absolutely. A lot of them were family friends who had been very successful in the business world. And so I started out with my family being on the board and then growing. And also a woman who I worked with at Ralph Lauren. I brought her on the board. And another successful businessman in my area, I brought him on the board, and my father-in-law I brought on the board as well. And I started there. And then as we've grown, we've kind of, tweaked along the way, and we've added new members.
Just to add to that, we've changed the board, over time. And as companies need to evolve, we've looked to bring on more industry experts, folks that have different disciplines that can, again, I'm a firm believer in surround myself with the best people I can that know more than me in a particular area, and we've tried to bring on board members that, fill those needs.
But you have to start somewhere, Start with the family, start with friends, and then as you grow the board.
And then kick off the other people.
No. Absolutely. Initially, I went to my parents and I said, listen, I have this idea, and I need a loan. And they backed the loan for me. I took out $100,000, started with $100,000, and they put their house on the line. That's how we started.
Okay,
they always say no risk, no reward, and we all believed in the idea.
This year.
About $1 million.
Well, this year I suspect we'll do about 1 million pair of shoes and 2 million straps or snaps. So that's, I don't know cumulative, but this year will be about 1 million. Last year probably was about 600,000 pair of shoes and 1.5 million snaps.
But yeah, I forgot to add in there too. When we launched the product, we launched with one base, one flip-flop with 13 interchangeable straps, okay? This shoe, that shoe. We have grown. We now have, 25 styles. So, as you grow, you need to bring in more inventory, and you need to, obviously, we started out with 5,000 shoes and grew from there, but you just kind of grow as your line grows.
Did you raise additional capital after that first 100,000? Did you need to in the future?
Absolutely. Well, I was actually very lucky because I had the $100,000 to start out with, and then I brought in the merchant. It was really for bringing in the merchandise and the storage shed and startup costs. And I started selling in January of that year. So I was bringing in money. So I was very lucky because we were able to bring that money back in. And also, the stores that we sell to, they pay with credit cards. So it's directly in your bank the next day. And that was very helpful along the way. And do you want to add on to that? I mean, now we, it's kind of a different...
Capital is always an issue. And even today, with phenomenal success, and as Lindsay said, we were certainly on target, if not to overachieve $30 million in sales this year. Growth has its own capital problems. And we're not in a very friendly banking environment still. And you hear every day in the news about they don't lend to small businesses. We're profitable, successful, and growing, and we hear from the banks. I know there's a Bank of America person here. We hear all the time. We've heard we're growing too fast. Okay, should we slow down? We've heard we have no receivables. That means we don't have to collect money from people because we get credit cards in advance. That means I have the cash. So it's a challenging bank environment. And so to your question, what do you do in these challenging times? A company like ours, frankly, 3 years ago could have bled money from the banks. Times have changed. So you have to look to either personally guarantee loans, which puts obviously principals at risk, and some people have that tolerance, or the personal net worth to be able to do it or not, or unfortunately, in some cases, you're forced to sell equity, if you will. So to give away pieces of your company. We've been fortunate not have to do that a whole lot. There's a whole group of venture capital, large and small, that consider these types of opportunities. But for a young entrepreneur, oftentimes it comes with giving up significant pieces of your company, which for some people is tasteful and some people is difficult. There is no simple answer to banking environments for small companies. For that matter, even for large companies today.
But that's how I got going, with the $100,000. I mean, that's how I initially got going.
I have two quick questions. What retail stores do you market to? And do you also have shoes for younger girls, or is it just for women?
Oh, we have an entire kids line.
Okay.
Absolutely. We are in about 4,000 retail stores nationwide. These are smaller retailers, gift, boutiques, independent stores. We're not in large chains. We're not in, like the Macy's or the Bloomingdale's. We're in independent stores. And we also have an online store as well. So where can I bring her to see? Oh, actually, there's one right down the road. And forgive me for not knowing. Cachet, right down the road. Yeah, you can actually go to our. You want to talk? He's from the area.
I mean, the good news is, and excuse us for not knowing, we have 4,000 stores now. So we used to know them all, but we can go on our website in a second and type in your zip code, and you'll find lots and lots of stores in this area and across the country. But I just want to focus on something Lindsay said because it's real important. You asked where we're selling. We have made a strategic decision not to sell into the Bloomingdale's and the big boxes. It's not that we can't sell. It goes back to thinking through your model. I don't have to tell all of you, you've been to the bigger box department stores over the last year and seen 30 off, 40 off, 50 off. That comes out of, for the most part, the hides of the manufacturers, not the hides of the stores selling them. So we've made a decision in growing this company because of cash flow issues and because we like the model of selling to these smaller specialty retailers where they do pay their bills. No 1 or 2 or 3 customers can put you out of business if they go out of business or decide not to pay. So those are you know, something as simple as what store to sell in is a very important strategic decision, or how to market your product becomes a very important part of your business model.
But we also had no idea when we first started what to do. So we started somewhere and we've kind of tweaked from there. You have to.
Since you've kept it in the local boutiques, what type of margins do you guys experience?
I'm going to hand this one over to Jeffrey.
Hi. Substantial. The web is a very important part of not only our current business model, but our future. We have a very robust website. We sell direct to consumer on the website, and it's a focal point of the future as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Lindsay, what did you study in college, and was it something that was sort of aiming you towards working in the particular business now that you're working in?
It's a great question. I was an art history major with a minor in communications, and my parents told me, you know, you're going to be doing business for the rest of your life, so do something that you would really enjoy in college. And I interned in the summer. I worked for Ralph Lauren and got some great business experience. So I decided to go that direction. I did get into Parsons School of Design and decided not to go there. And you know, you can never look back, you only look forward. But I was an art history major. Again, you don't have to be a business major to make it happen.
Hi.
Hi.
What other kind of marketing efforts did you put forth? You said you attended a trade show, a surf trade show?
Yes.
Did you spend a lot of time and effort on trade shows? Did you hire sales reps? What other marketing efforts did you?
We spend a lot of time, a lot of research on marketing, and we go to trade shows. We have 95 reps across the country. And you want to talk about that a little bit? I mean, are you talking specifically like trade shows or? In the beginning, zero. I didn't have the budget. I was just trying to get my idea out there. I was trying to make it work. I was trying to get stores. We just started marketing about a year ago. Yeah. So, and actually we do quite a lot of it now, but not in the beginning. Yeah. Social media, huge. Facebook, Twitter. We Twitter every day. We're always updating on Facebook. It's very important. It's very important. We're getting the message out there. We have people who write on our wall every single day. Social media is a great tool. Use it to your advantage.
I just wonder, why did you let produce in China and not in America?
Okay, great question. I actually approached a manufacturer in the United States when I was getting going, and they would not take me on. They said that my minimums were too low and that I was a risk. So I contacted several, absolutely. Yeah. And you want to add to that?
I want to add to it
I contacted.
Honestly, you can't get competitive shoes manufactured in the United States today. And we have tried. Because as much as Lindsay said, you know, she had to go over to China, it's fortunately or unfortunately, the U.S. manufacturing business for these type of products really don't exist. And we constantly, even today, scour the world for new places outside of China, because China is a wonderful place, but it's a long way away. And because it's a long way away, that means there's long lead times on everything you can imagine, from getting your first prototype to reordering. So we're looking constantly at India. We're looking at all places throughout the world. But we wish we could find a manufacturer. I'm constantly thinking daily on, is there an opportunity now, given that the U.S. economy has taken a little bit of a step backwards short term. And frankly, the Chinese economy, the middle class has come up so much that it's making manufacturing in China more and more difficult and more expensive. And so other places in the world are important for you to look at. No, listen, I can't speak to every product, obviously. There's still some great products made in the USA. But I will tell you that in our business, and our business goes beyond shoes now, bags, handbags, scarves, there's just no U.S. manufacturers that are competitively priced. And it's a shame, but it's a fact of life, and that's where the vast majority of everything you're wearing and everything is on your feet don't come from this country any longer. It really is, yeah, well, twofold. One is you may not even be able to find a manufacturer at any price, and if you do, they're going to be 50 to 100% more, in our experience.
Okay, thank you so much. Lindsay and Jeff, stay there. Stay up. We're going to give you a plaque.
Oh, you want me to stay here?
Stay here.
Okay. Okay.
So that was really inspiring. And I'd like to call up Ethne Swartz again to give Lindsay a token of our appreciation.
Let's do that.
And I'll just make a few comments. Lindsay's got a great story and great lessons that she gave us here today. One of the things that I think we should all, just step right over here, I'll take this from you, is that you don't have to be my dean will get upset at me, you don't have to be a business major to be a successful entrepreneur. In fact, over 50% of most entrepreneurs aren't business majors. And so we have many successful entrepreneurs from Fairleigh Dickinson, and they're from engineering, biology, and so just remember that just because you don't major in business or study business early on doesn't mean you can't be a successful entrepreneur. So I'd like Ethne to give that plaque. We're going to wait for a picture. Ethne is the founder of the Female Entrepreneurs Alliance and one of the leading professors at this university. So I want to thank her for being here and presenting this plaque. There will also be another plaque, which I'll ask Ethne to hold up, which will go into our office, which will have, of course, Lindsay's name, and so we can memorialize that going forward. I'll just, well, thank you very much, Lindsay. I'm just going to say a few more words. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. And I wanted to just reflect for 1 second. This past week, Thomas Friedman wrote an article in the New York Times, something in the New York Times called the American Dream Team. Now, for the past 7 years, I've been saying, this is our future. We are in good hands. And now 7 years later, he says the same thing. So I'm pleased that Tom Friedman is acknowledging the young entrepreneurs, the young innovators that will make our future bright going forward. So once again, thanks for coming. Have a wonderful weekend and drive safely.